Hey everyone, stop scrolling right now, because if you're wondering whether that long-promised $2,000 check from tariff revenue is landing in your bank account before Christmas, the answer is a flat no. And today, I'm breaking down the full truth behind all the headlines, social media buzz, and political promises, so you know exactly where things stand as we head into the holidays and beyond. If this kind of straightforward update on government benefits, economic relief, and what really affects your wallet is valuable to you, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss these critical breakdowns. And drop a comment below with your state or city so I can see where everyone's tuning in from, because your engagement helps get this information out to more people who need it. All right, let's get straight into it, because there's a lot of confusion swirling around this supposed stimulus dividend tied to the tariffs, and I've been digging through the latest reports, official statements, and economic analyses to separate fact from hype. President Trump has been talking up this idea for months now, starting back in the summer when he first mentioned using money collected from import taxes to send out rebates to everyday Americans, initially floating figures like $600 or even higher, then ramping it up to around $1,000 to $2,000 per person, mostly aimed at low and middle-income folks while excluding higher earners. He positioned it as a way to share the massive revenue pouring in from these global tariffs, claiming it could help offset rising costs while also chipping away at the national debt. And at one point, he even suggested the checks could start flowing before the end of this year. But here's the reality check. Multiple recent announcements and clarifications from the administration itself have pushed any potential payouts well into 2026, likely mid-year or even closer to the midterm elections, with no distribution happening over the holidays or anytime soon in 2025. This isn't just speculation. It's based on direct comments where the timeline got walked back, emphasizing that Congress would need to approve any actual program. And so far, while there's been some legislative interest, like a bill from Senator Josh Hawley proposing rebates in the $600 to $2,400 range, nothing has been passed or funded. On top of that, economists across the board, including nonpartisan groups like the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget and the Tax Foundation, have crunched the numbers and pointed out that the cost of sending out $2,000 to millions of eligible Americans could easily hit $300 billion to over $600 billion in a single round, far outpacing the projected annual tariff revenue of around $200 to $300 billion, meaning it might require dipping into deficits or other funds, which raises big questions about feasibility without adding to inflation or debt pressures.
Speaking of inflation, that's a huge part of why so many people are hoping for relief in the first place. These tariffs have undeniably driven up prices on everyday imported goods, from electronics and clothing to food items and auto parts, contributing to the stubborn cost of living squeeze that's hitting fixed-income households the hardest. And even Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has publicly stated that the current inflation overshoot above the 2% target is largely driven by these trade policies, warning that while some effects might be temporary one-time price jumps, others could linger and complicate the broader economy. That's why we're seeing pushback from both sides, including Democrats in the Senate who recently introduced legislation to temporarily boost Social Security and veterans benefits by an extra $200 per month for the first half of 2026, specifically to counter tariff-related inflation, though that proposal hasn't gained traction yet in a divided Congress. Meanwhile, several states have stepped in with their own forms of relief this year, like New York's inflation refund checks that started mailing out in the fall to eligible taxpayers based on prior filings, or ongoing property tax rebates and earned income credits in places like New Jersey, Colorado, and others, providing hundreds or even thousands in direct help to residents dealing with higher costs. But back to the federal level, there's another massive wild card hanging over this whole tariff dividend concept.
The Supreme Court is currently reviewing challenges to the president's authority to impose many of these broad tariffs under emergency powers, with oral arguments already showing skepticism from justices across the ideological spectrum about whether the executive branch can bypass Congress on such a scale.
If the court rules against the administration, and many legal experts think that's a real possibility given the bipartisan doubts expressed, the tariffs could be struck down, forcing refunds of potentially hundreds of billions in collected duties to importers, which would wipe out the very revenue pool meant to fund any rebates. And we've already seen major companies like Costco, along with others in food, manufacturing, and retail, filing lawsuits to secure their spots in line for those potential refunds, highlighting just how uncertain the funding source really is. All this adds up to why expectations need to be tempered. No checks are coming this Christmas, and even next year remains highly conditional on congressional action, court outcomes, and economic trade-offs. That said, the pressure is real because millions are feeling the pinch from elevated prices on essentials, and political incentives around upcoming elections could shift things. But planning your budget around unconfirmed promises isn't wise when there are proven ways to maximize what you already qualify for, like ensuring you're getting full Social Security benefits, exploring senior discounts, or tapping into state programs. If you're looking for more reliable ways to stretch your dollars and stay ahead of changes in benefits, retirement planning, Medicare, or personal finance strategies tailored for those on fixed incomes, make sure you're subscribed because I break down these topics regularly with practical steps you can take today. And hey, if this video cleared things up for you or sparked questions, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear the facts, and let me know in the comments what other benefit or economic topics you'd like me to cover next. Your input shapes what comes out, so thanks for being part of this community. Stay informed, take care, and I'll catch you in the next update.